Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Green Flag. I'm your host, Lukas Wacker, and welcome to the Doubleheader Texas recap episode for the IndyCar series here this past weekend. It's Texas Motor Speedway. That's basically all I have to say in this episode. It's just, it's bad for NASCAR. It's bad for IndyCar now. It's unfortunate that we get a doubleheader at Texas when you look at some of the ovals that are off the calendar now, but at the end of the day, we got to look at it and recap it. So let's get to it. We had a doubleheader, as I mentioned off the top, with the Saturday race going into the night, and of course the Sunday afternoon race into the evening at Texas Motor Speedway, where it was a dominant performance definitely on the Saturday. No doubt about it. It was a pretty clear-cut victory there for Scott Dixon, leading 206 laps. Just a dominant performance from him the entire race. Only one other guy led 6 laps in this one. That one was Pato Award in that first race. So Scott Dixon just does Scott Dixon things at Texas Motor Speedway. So no surprise there. I was thinking about picking him for the race win going into the weekend. Didn't quite have enough time to do a preview episode properly for IndyCar this weekend. So we'll take what we can get. I'll say that I did. You just have to take my word for it. But for Scott Dixon, just a dominant performance over the 212 laps there on Saturday. Not much happened in that race. A couple of heavy hits for some guys, namely James Hinchcliffe was one of them, and Sebastian Bourdais just hitting the outside wall. And with the high speeds on these ovals, it's a pretty hefty impact. So it's great to see these drivers and the safety in these cars, they're able to walk away under their own power. So that was an important thing. Colton Herta had some issues in this one as well, mechanical issue there with the brake rotor on the right rear catching on fire. And then from there, he was done for the day, of course. So he won St. Pete. Disappointing result here in the first race at Texas Motor Speedway. No real surprises throughout the most of the grid, except for right behind the race winner there in Scott Dixon. Second place, Scott Mclaughlin, finishing second in his oval debut in IndyCar. Wow, what a performance. I mean, he gets driver of the day, driver of the weekend, most likely from me, just because of that's an incredible performance. He started 15th, ends up second, behind one of the greatest, if not the greatest, at Texas Motor Speedway, basically all time. And with that victory, Scott Dixon goes to one within the all-time record there set by Mario Andretti. He gets his 51st career victory. So, I mean, this guy is just on another planet in terms of the IndyCar series. But for Scott McLaughlin and Team Penske, you have to feel so good about this decision to put him in this car. Late last season, of course, coming from supercars down in Australia, now coming over here to an entirely different discipline of racing, and he's passed with flying colors, I would say. He's running for Rookie of the Year with really no competition because he's the only guy running the full season that is classified as a Rookie of the Year candidate. So he'll get that no matter what. But when you look at the performance that he's putting in a Team Penske car, you can't help but smile for Roger Penske if you're him. And if you're just a fan of racing in general and you're an Australian supercars fan, or you're just or if you're just a fan of Scott McLaughlin, you got to be ecstatic if you're him right now of just how well he's performed so far this season. And it's very young, of course, 4 races in after this weekend, but you got to still feel great for Scott McLaughlin that he's been able to, of course, there's practice with IndyCar, unlike NASCAR, so and qualifying itself. So we get to see a little bit of that practice session and getting to grips with a new track like this for McLaughlin. But to finish ahead of some of these other guys that we expect few things out of, I mean, Pato Award still finishing third. Great result for him to end up on the podium. Alex Palou off to a great start to his season there for the 10 team in Chip Ganassi Racing. Graham Rahal finishing 5th. He's done exceptionally well here this weekend, and you expect things from him here at Texas Motor Speedway as well. Joseph Newgarden, his teammate there in Scott McLaughlin Scott McLaughlin's finishing P6. So when you look at the names that he's around, you have to smile and feel great about Scott McLaughlin's chances of really excelling in this discipline and in this sport itself. So, huge victory for him. Dixon just leads the most laps, dominates, gets 53 points, the most out of anybody in this event. And he did really well in the second race as well. But for that first race, not too much happened. Battle out front, it was very difficult to pass. As soon as you got out of the lower lane and into the PJ1, there was very little to no grip, and it was just into the marbles, the dirty stuff, whatever you want to classify it as or whatever you want to call it. It was just very difficult for these guys to really try and make a too wide pass for a large majority of the race. So it was very much single file, and the restarts were decent, but at the end of the day, Texas Motor Speedway really ruined their track when they repaved it and they reshaped turns 1 and 2, specifically for NASCAR, but for IndyCar as well. It just doesn't work as well, unfortunately. So the first race doesn't need any more explanation than that itself. But the second race had a great winner, and that's what, at the end of the day, that was really the storyline in this one, as Pato O'Ward collects his first career IndyCar victory. Huge victory for him. It's been a long time coming, long awaited. He's been on the podium a couple of times, been snake bitten through strategy or just not being able to close the deal last season specifically. But Arrow McLaren is in victory lane, victorious at Texas Motor Speedway. He got past Joseph Newgarden late in the going with about 18 or so laps to go, maybe even less than that, and set sail from there. Pretty commanding lead at the end of it all for Pato O'Ward, and he was ecstatic, as he should be, for him, obviously turning, I think it is 22 later this week, 21 years of age, with the victory as well. Zach Brown, if you haven't seen the clip, he before the season started there at Barber Motorsports Park, Zach Brown, the CEO basically of McLaren. He runs both operations there, both for IndyCar and, of course, Formula One. He's got quite the busy schedule, but he made the offer to Pato O'Ward. If he wins the race this season, he will get the chance to drive an F1 car at the season-ending test in Abu Dhabi. And it didn't take him long to commit to that and fulfill that promise that he set out for Zach Brown. And he's victorious in only the 4th race of this season. Got a pole position, of course, as well. So he's just been flying to start this season, and you got to feel great for Pato O'Ward. Well deserved, well earned, and this is just going to be the first of many in his IndyCar career. Super talented, likable guy, and really hoping for the best things for him in the future. So this is a fun fact. This is the first non-Penske win for Chevrolet in IndyCar since 2016. Honda has dominated this series for many years, and obviously Team Penske is at the forefront of the Chevrolet manufactured Indy cars. But to think that it's been since 2016 at Watkins Glen for Scott Dixon with Ganassi before they switched to Honda, that Chevrolet was in victory lane with a team other than Team Penske, that's just remarkable at the end of the day. So just impressive stuff for just the entire Arrow McLaren team, how well they've been able to adapt to this entirely new discipline here with IndyCar. Joseph Newgarden finishing second in this one, just consistently getting these finishes after his poor start there to the season there in Alabama. Graham Rahal finishing in the top 5 in both events this weekend, so you got to feel great if you're him. Scott Dixon as well, getting a 1st and a 4th place finish this weekend. So he was dominant in this one for the large majority of the race. Just fell off. Pit strategy fell one way or another there for him. That didn't quite work out for him at the end of this thing. Led 163 laps, led the most laps by far out of anybody, but ends up P4. Colton Herta, after his disappointment there in that first race, ends up P5. And then from then on, no real surprises. Scott McLaughlin, after his 2nd place run, finishes 8th in the 2nd race. Alex Palou finishes in the top 7 again in 7th place. So, and Simon Pagenaud, I'll just mention him there in P6 there for Team Penske. But really the biggest incident of the race was before the green flag even dropped in this event, as it was a massive pileup at the beginning, at the start-finish straight at Texas Motor Speedway, where Conor Daly went for a flip after a checkup there with Pietro Fittipaldi getting into the back of Sebastian Bourdais. And then it was on from there at the back of the pack. Alexander Rossi just cannot get some luck whatsoever the past 2 seasons, and ends up out of this one. Lots of cars ended up out of this one. Sebastian Bourdais, Alexander Rossi, Pietro Fittipaldi, Ed Jones, Dalton Kellett, and Conor Daly. So big heavy hitters there at the back of the pack. Unfortunately, didn't have a great qualifying effort there, but nonetheless, that's a lot of depth taken out of the race itself. So a lot of guys just played it safe from then on. Hence Scott Dixon's kind of dominance for the 2nd day in a row. But nonetheless, it was just a very scary looking incident. And thank God for the aero screen. That's the most important thing coming out of this race is how impressive the safety is. Conor Daly, I mean, he kind of corkscrewed and flipped onto its side and then just kind of skidded across the front straightaway there, ended up landing back up on all fours. Not to say that he flipped or anything, but just kind of landed on his side to an extent, and then just hit the grass right, and then he lands up on all fours. So thankfully, all the drivers were okay at the end of this one, and that's the most important thing. You never want to see a wreck like that. It was very scary looking, but at least they weren't up to full speed. It was just coming up to speed at the initial start of this race. So just props to, motorsports in general for their safety. That's just the safety in motorsports just continues to mesmerize. And when you watch multiple disciplines of motorsports across all different series here, like as Kyle and I do, you really gather that appreciation for the different kinds of impacts and the different kinds of wrecks that each driver experiences throughout their career, and how lucky how lucky we are as fans, and how lucky they are as a person, and all their family members and team personnel and everything like that they are able to walk away under their own power more often than not. And with the safety innovations that keep on coming, the fact that we're getting, lesser and lesser driver, deaths is just great to see. So it's just one of the great things that motorsports really brings out is their safety, and it was definitely evident in this race here for Texas Motor Speedway. But all in all, just kind of a lackluster racing product that Texas Motor Speedway will have to reassess, and they go back to the road courses here at Indianapolis to kind of kick off their month of Indy with the road course. And then, of course, we have the Indianapolis 500 coming up in a short while at the end of May. So it's just, a great time to be an IndyCar fan. You got lots of guys coming back. Jimmy Johnson makes his return to the series after his, break here this weekend of not running the ovals this past weekend. Romain Grosjean as well will return for the 51 car at the Indianapolis road course. So keep your eye out for that. We'll have you covered here at the Green Flag. But all in all, mediocre to kind of disappointing weekend overall. But congratulations to both winners. Scott Dixon, history in the making. Basically, we're on the cusp of it here for Scott Dixon, and you can't help but feel great for Pato O'Ward getting that first career victory and the first of many in IndyCar in his career. So make sure to follow us on Instagram at the Green Flag Pod, as well as Twitter at the Green Flag Pod. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. We really appreciate it. All the support on the channel over the past couple of weeks has been really, really great. Kyle and I really, really appreciate it. And all the links to our social channels will be in the description of the video. If you haven't already, check out our NASCAR recap episode, as well as the Portuguese Grand Prix for Formula One. Those two are already up on the channel, so make sure you go check those out as well. But for this episode, I've been Lukas Wacker, and we will talk to you a little bit later this week to get you set up for the Spanish Grand Prix and, of course, the Darlington Throwback Weekend for NASCAR. IndyCar takes a step back for the next couple of weeks before returning to the Indianapolis road course. We'll talk to you later, everybody.